And now for the next piece, the last piece of our call. Uh, we've asked Alex Marianyi, who's the state coordinator for Illinois, who gave this amazing talk at the Great Lakes Regional Conference that brought the entire crowd to their feet. And I only read the talk, but it inspired me. And so Alex has offered to come here tonight to give us that talk as if we were there, as if he was speaking directly to us. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Alex.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. Can everyone hear me well enough?
You're good.
All right. Great. Well, buckle up, kids. This ain't your usual CCL speech. Before I go any further, I want to say that I love CCL. I love so much of what CCL stands for. I love that CCL embraces relationships and optimism. I love that CCL looks at a choice between addressing climate change and addressing dysfunctional partisanship and says, why not both? Many of my favorite people on this planet are CCL staff and volunteers, some of them on this very call. And being active in CCL has truly changed my life for the better in ways I never could have imagined just a few years ago. But I'm not here to talk about all that shit. I'm not here to inspire you, and I am not here to tell you some warm, fuzzy story. I'm here to talk about the reality of being a CCL volunteer. For me, one reality of being a CCL volunteer is having my fellow millennial friends ask, why bother? It's not that we don't think climate change is an important issue. If all goes well, we millennials have a good 40 to 50 more years to go on this warming planet. But as a millennial, I also sat in my 8th grade science class watching 9/11, live coverage of 9/11. And then I ate my breakfasts before high school watching news coverage of the ensuing wars. I graduated college 2 years after the 2008 housing market crash. And my wife and I were considering buying a house and starting a family when the pandemic hit. In short, my generation feels like it's been failed repeatedly by the federal government and people in power. Or, as we like to call it, the system. And yet, here I am, a volunteer leader in an organization that seeks to work within the system to influence the system by being nice. I know that's a wild oversimplification of what we do, but that's how it can look to a jaded millennial who's asking, why bother? Another reality for me, another reality of being a CCL volunteer is wondering, what do I actually do? I say I'm a CCL volunteer, but what does that even mean? What's the reality of that? When I talk to CCL staff, they always say to me, thanks for all that you do. That's their job. They're supposed to say that. Even though I believe they genuinely mean it, it's still their job. And every time, it makes me wonder, what do I actually do? Well, I have a full-time job. I have a wife I enjoy spending time with. I have a cat, friends, hobbies. CCL is just one part of my life, and I don't have unlimited time to spend on it. And in many CCL meetings, I'm often one of the only people that's graduated college and under 50, and my already limited CCL time feels even more limited by comparison. In some of these meetings, CCL, like this one, CCL does this beautiful thing where they ask people to share a recent success. And though it never goes exactly like this is sometimes how it feels to me. Last week, I saw my congresswoman at the grocery store, and she emailed me, or she smiled at me. So I chopped down an invasive tree, pulped the bark, made paper, grabbed my locally sourced quill pen, wrote a thank you note with organic ink, and rode my bike 50 miles to the in-district office that's farthest from my house in order to hand deliver the note in person. Now, if you're this kind of person, please keep doing what you're doing. You are a priceless treasure, and this expression of your advocacy is beautiful. But I am 100% not that dude. I'm never going to take the time, and I'm never going to use the energy to do something like that. So again, I find myself asking, what do I actually do? Well, I guess I'm a state coordinator and a congressional liaison and a group leader, which is almost impressive until you realize that all you have to do is keep saying yes to stuff and they'll keep giving you more stuff to do. And in these roles, most of my time is spent in front of my computer. I send emails. I attend Zoom meetings. I stay up to date on CCL news and on congressional news and on climate news. Sometimes I just sit there, staring at an email from a random volunteer I don't know, that is filled to the brim with a stew of their emotions about climate change, and I have to convince myself to not respond with, please just get a therapist. As a group leader, I help plan and lead chapter meetings that could absolutely be better than they are because too many white men talk too much and I haven't done the work to get more women and more people of color involved in my chapter. And as a liaison, I plan and schedule lobby meetings, which could also definitely be better than they are because I don't spend enough time developing a relationship with the office in between meetings, which is why the meetings always get scheduled so late, and then I have to rush to prepare a lobby meeting I didn't think was going to happen and pray that there are a decent number of available constituents who I, of course, haven't been staying in touch with since the last lobby meeting. And as a state coordinator, I help plan and lead Illinois leadership meetings that could 100% be better than they are because I often send the reminder email too late and I'm bad at effectively communicating that the meeting is on the Tuesday 10 days after the second Saturday of each month, which is sometimes the third Tuesday of the month and sometimes the fourth Tuesday of the month, and I always forget one really important thing that CCL National wanted me to communicate to group leaders and liaisons. And I spend a lot of the rest of my already limited CCL time dreading tasks, subconsciously worrying that I'm not doing enough, and mixing up legitimate frustration with my own anxiety-driven self-loathing. And of course, I only tell my therapist and my wife about all of this because they're the only two people who know enough to understand, but who also really can't do too much about it. So when my friends ask me, why bother? I don't really have a convincing answer for them. And when I ask myself, what do I actually do? The answer always seems to be very little done poorly. At the end of the day, it's really just never enough. Whatever Congress does is never enough. Whatever I do for CCL is never enough. I'll sit in this mental state, sometimes for weeks at a time. I will accept that never enough is the reality of being a CCL volunteer. And then, one night, I'll be playing a video game, which is my way of avoiding CCL tasks, and my phone will light up. And I'll look over, and I'll see the name of any one of the amazing CCLers in Illinois, or maybe it's one of my amazing regional coordinators, like Elizabeth Dell, who's on this call. And I will answer that call or that text or that email because those people truly are amazing and I want to hear from them. And I'm reminded that is the reality of being a CCL volunteer. Yes, the reality of being a CCL volunteer is the work, the emails, the meetings, the learning, the answering questions from skeptical friends, family, and strangers. It's not all bad. It is all work. But I do all of that work so that when one of these amazing CCLers calls me, I can pick up the phone, answer their questions, encourage them to keep going, and thank them for the work that they are doing. In short, I empower them to keep doing their thing. It doesn't matter if I forget one of the steps of motivational interviewing in my lobby meeting. It doesn't matter if I forget the correct way to structure a request of a volunteer. It doesn't matter if I send a reminder too late or miss some of the info or forget to send it at all. It doesn't matter if climate legislation passed through Congress isn't exactly what we want. I'm not advocating for us to be careless in our CCL work. I'm just saying that it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Whatever you imagine is a perfect, idealized version of that lobby meeting or email or climate legislation. What matters is that we are doing this together. What matters is that we're doing it shoulder to shoulder, phone to phone, and yes, Zoom square to Zoom square. We are people empowering each other. Because in the end, all we really have is each other in this very moment. Some of us may not see Congress pass legislation that definitively puts us on the path to net zero, and even fewer of us will see net zero and beyond. You will always be chasing that perfect lobby meeting, and there will always be something about your chapter that you feel is deficient in some way. You will never do every CCL task that you feel needs to be done. Worse yet, you will never do every CCL task that you told someone else you would do. Okay, maybe you will, but I definitely won't. And, like it or not, you'll keep moving forward through time. Tasks, problems, what ifs, and could haves will pile up and probably fade from memory. Missed opportunities will fly past you, many of them without you even realizing it. And all your to-do lists, process documents, and good intentions can never change that. But rather than all of that being a reason to worry or despair, it's actually a reason to rejoice, because it means what's most important right now and forever is each other. As we finish this meeting and continue on with our lives, I encourage you to revel in the people around you. I encourage you to be open to them, open to their ideas, open to having your opinion changed, open to making a friend. And try to be honest with yourself and with other people. No matter how scary it may seem, tell them how you're feeling. Maybe you are excited to try something new with your chapter, or maybe you're frustrated something didn't go well, or maybe you just like more time for a nap. Maybe you'd like me to shut up so we can end this meeting and you can get on with the rest of your lives. However you're feeling right now, just know all of the rest of us on this call are feeling our own feelings right now. I encourage you to scroll through the Zoom squares and just sit with the knowledge that each and every one of these people cares about CCL as much as you do. And many of them are facing the same challenges and the same opportunities that you are right now, all over the country and all over the world. We are all in this together, and that is the reality of being a CCL volunteer. Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you, Alex. Lots of love in the chat. Thank you so